Hello, it's Alex. Welcome back to my channel. I'm going to talk today about what I've been sewing over the last couple of weeks. One is a bit of a hit, a bit of a success, and the other one not so much. I'm just not sure whether it should stay or whether it should go. But I haven't really been sewing anything like as much as I normally do because I've not actually been feeling too well. Nothing corona related. But yeah, just feeling a bit under the weather and lacking in energy. So it's been a little bit more limited, and that's also why I didn't post a video last week. I did put a notification on the community tab about that, and I sometimes also, if I spot a sale, I'll put that on the community tab, so that's worth going and checking out. But yeah, on the last video I mentioned that I got an urge to make a Broderie Anglais blouse, which is what I've done. And before we move on to that, let me just say thank you very much for all the brilliant comments on that last video. I was quite nervous about posting that one, so it was great to get really good feedback and lots of insights from everybody. And one of the things that making that has taught me is that I think I said in that I didn't think that I needed to pay to have a colour analysis session. The one I had was done, it was like a mini session. Boz, who has Fabric Magpie, which is an online shop and also a YouTube channel, she is up here in Manchester, or she's in the North Manchester. She organised a pop-up shop and she arranged for a stylist to come to that and do mini sessions with us. So mine was a very brief one, and following all the comments, it's made me realise that actually I probably do need to spend a bit of time with somebody talking it through properly. And perhaps if I'd done that, I might have realised for myself that if you stick to your colour palette, everything works together. So I'm seriously contemplating getting in touch with that lady and organising something when lockdown restrictions have lifted, because we've got tighter restrictions here in the northwest. Anyway, let's get on to what I've been making. As I said, I wanted to make a Broderie Anglais blouse, and I had bought some fabric. In fact, to be honest, I've wanted to make a blouse in that kind of fabric for a good couple of years, and I've been looking out for the right fabric because I'm just not drawn to standard Broderie Anglais. I kind of very much knew in my own mind what I was looking for, and eventually I spotted it a while ago now in John Lewis. I think I bought it in the winter, which is why I've not used it until now. And it's this fabric, and I don't know whether it counts as a Broderie Anglais or not because it's pretty holey. It looks like this. And in terms of patterns, I've made a few shirts recently that have been quite similar. I've made the Deer and Doe Melio shirt and the Closet Core Patterns Cali Shirt, and they're kind of similar. I think the Melio, I would say, is more shaping than the Cali, but I wanted something with kind of even more shaping than that, with possibly either a waist dart or some kind of shaping at the back. And actually it was a lot harder to find than you might think, but I do love a little bit of a pattern search, and I found the perfect one, and it turned out I already had it. In fact, not only did I already have it, saw from a little note on there that I made a version of it for my daughter a couple of years ago. Didn't even remember. Anyway, it is Burda 7136. It comes with a couple of different options, standard collar and then one of those kind of upturned stand collars that I haven't really seen around for a while. Standard placket and a concealed placket, which if you've watched any of my videos before, you'll know I'm very partial to a concealed placket. And it also has a bib front option, and I thought that would be really good. With this fabric being as holey as it is, I thought that if I backed the bib section with plain white cotton lawn, then I might feel a little bit more confident wearing it, because I don't really want to be wearing a shirt that feels that I might as well be naked underneath it. So I used cotton lawn. I think it was some that I had from Minerva in my stash. So I used it plain cotton on the collar and the cuffs and the plackets, and then I used it behind the bib front and the yoke at the back, just to give a bit of contrast, but also, yeah, decency really. And as you can see, it's not a Burda magazine Burda pattern, it's a proper printed one, which means, hallelujah, it does come with seam allowance. I didn't really follow the instructions too much. I think I did around the concealed placket, but other than that, I've made so many shirts that I kind of just plough on through it in my own little way. But yeah, no problems at all with this pattern. I was a little bit nervous because I've never sewn with a fabric that's quite, I mean, there's loose weave and then there's holes. I've never really sewn with lace, and I've never sewn with anything quite as holy as this. And because of it being so transparent, I did want to have French seams, and I wasn't sure how easy it would be to sew at all, and certainly to sew French seams when there's so much of the fabric in effect missing. But I treated it in exactly the same way I would treat any fabric, and thought, well, if I have problems with it, I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. And to be honest, I didn't have any problems with it. Even though the seam allowance was 1.5, I just made my seam very narrow to reduce the bulk down, because the fabric is actually quite thick. But that worked really well. I just trimmed down those seam allowances very, very tight to the stitching, and I had to do that throughout just because of bulk really, because as I say, it's fairly thick. As you can see on the hem, all I did was trim around the circles, so that was quite nice, not having to hem it. But also, because the circles are quite large, I did have to make sure I pattern matched, because I didn't want, obviously, them to not kind of have some correlation. I did have to bear that in mind, and that was a bit more of a concern on the bib section, but I think I did okay. It was never going to be perfect because of it having a curve at the bottom, but also because I lined or backed the bib section with the white cotton. I think I've got away with that. And I didn't make any alterations to the fit at all, and I'm really pleased with how it turned out. The only thing that I did change was on the placket, on the sleeve placket. I just couldn't get my head round the Burda instructions, and the placket piece was different to any placket I've used before. So in the end, I went and got my placket piece from the Deer and Doe Melio shirt, added a little bit to the length just because there's a difference in seam allowance, and used that. I was a little bit concerned how that might work just with this fabric being so thick, but actually it worked really well, so I'm really pleased with that. And I am really pleased with how it looks overall as a finished item. It's exactly as I imagined it to be. I do realise that plain white, or a stark white, crisp white shirt is absolutely not what somebody with my colouring is supposed to wear. And I think that when I kind of imagined it, I mistakenly imagined it being worn, you know, over kind of lovely tanned skin, you know, as a part of a summer outfit. And I, you know, look at me, I couldn't be more pale, and I don't tan. So, you know, I don't think it's giving me quite that kind of vibe, but I do think I'm going to be able to wear it with lots of items. I implemented my strategy, so when I finished sewing it, I tried it on with lots of things. I did have in mind while I was sewing it that it might look good with my Yanta overalls, and I think it really does, so I'm pleased with that. And I also thought it would look really good tied over a summer dress, and I think it works well with that. And the other thing, I tried to see how it would look both just with a bra on underneath and also with a nude camisole underneath, because I'm not keen on that being able to see your bra through your clothes thing. I know some people like it, it's just not for me. And to be honest, I couldn't tell the difference with either option. I couldn't see through, so I was pleased with that. And the other thing that I tried was wearing it over the top of a long sleeved round neck black, you know, just a sort of base layer. to see how it would work just with a contrasting colour coming through the holes. And I think that worked, so I do think I will wear it in the winter. And I'm keen to see what it might look like with a more vibrant colour underneath it. All the long sleeve tops I have that are plain are all in fairly basic drab colours, you know, black and brown and white and navy. So when I get a minute, I am going to make up just a plain round neck, long sleeved top, or maybe even a polo neck, in something just a bit more vibrant, and see how that works underneath it, so that I can wear it as the weather gets colder. But overall, really pleased with it. Think it's a bit of a success, and actually I'm really good to just have it ticked off my list, because as I say, it's been something I've wanted to make for a long time. And I do very, very much enjoy making shirts. You know, sometimes you don't always get the collar spot on and you fudge it a little bit, but this was just one of those where everything went pretty well to plan, so really pleased with this one. So my not so successful make is a Kielo wrap dress. It's a sewing pattern from Named Patterns. It's been around for probably a couple of years now. It's very popular, lots and lots of people have made it, and I have loved some of the versions that I've seen. Originally I think it was just a sleeveless version, and then they released sleeves for it, and then more recently there is now a jumpsuit version, all now as part of the same pattern. So that really sort of gave me the impetus to finally buy it. And at the same time, when it was my birthday back in April, my son, bless him, bought me a voucher for Lamazi Fabrics. I say bless him, I just think it's so sweet at 17 to go and find the fabric shop that mum might like. Anyway, I'd got this £20 voucher for Lamazi, so I've been lurking on their site looking for fabrics I might like for a while, and I spotted this jersey fabric, and I kept going back and looking at it and going back and looking at it. Then when the new Kielo pattern came out, I thought, okay, I'll go and buy this fabric and make that dress. So obviously I, did have to add a little bit to it, but it is a hell of a PDF. I wish I'd gone with my initial instinct and sent it off to be printed somewhere, or ordered it online to be printed, because cutting and sticking that was quite a job. And as I say, I haven't been feeling 100%. So I spent a whole day or a whole afternoon putting the PDF together, cutting the fabric out, and then that night I sat and had a look through Instagram at other versions that people have made, just to kind of, just to inspire me really, and there are some really lovely ones out there. But the more I looked, the more I thought that actually the sleeveless versions looked better to me. So I thought, oh, to hell with it, I'll make a sleeveless version. So a bit annoying, because I ended up with 2 sleeves cut out that I don't need. But at the end of the day, I thought, I think I'll wear it more often like that. I just liked how it looked sort of aesthetically, really. And the other thing that I was really aware of, having looked at other images of it, was how much difference choice of fabric made. So it is designed for stretch fabrics, and although I have seen quite a lot of people seem to have made it out of wovens, so that's obviously a definite possibility. But it did seem that the drapier fabrics, to my mind, looked nicer than the ones that were a little bit heavier and more structured. And to be honest, I think at that point I knew that this fabric, and don't get me wrong, this is not particularly thick, I think it's a cotton jersey, but I think at that point I knew that this fabric wasn't going to give it the amount of drape that I wanted. I mean, it's personal preference, absolutely personal preference, but I liked the drapier versions. And really, I think this is a tale of why you shouldn't sew when you're not feeling 100%, because in my heart of hearts, I knew that this wasn't really working. But anyway, I carried on, Because I was making the sleeveless version, I needed to add binding to the armholes to the sleeves, and obviously this is a stretch fabric, so I made binding from the same fabric, and I was a bit nervous about that. I am not the best person at bias binding, I have to be honest. Anyway, did the binding around the armholes, and it was beautiful, though I say it myself. I was very, very pleased with how it turned out. So I thought, okay, this is all going really well. So you do that, and then at the next step I should have sewn the remaining, as you know, it's a kind of triangular piece. So at the top of the triangle you've got the armholes, and then it goes into a side section that should be sewn together. And I just didn't read it properly, and I overlocked those sides but didn't sew them together, and then continued to make the ties, added the ties on, sewed the side seams. So what I ended up with was this. So there's my bias bound neckline with a bit of top stitching, which I think was looking pretty good. And here's my bias bound armholes, also I think looking pretty good. That's the seam, there's the bound armhole, and then this should be sewn together. But I had somehow managed to get the notches wrong. So my binding on the back is here and my binding on the front is here. So if I'd matched those two up, my side seam was out by about 5 or 6 centimetres. So obviously, the obvious thing to do is to unpick my beautiful binding and reattach it. But I thought, as soon as it was looking so lovely, and I didn't want to unpick it if I didn't need to, I thought, well, what I'll do, bearing in mind I've already sewn the sides, is I will just pin it and see how it looks, and see whether, frankly, see whether I can fudge it at all. So that's what I did, and I've taken some photographs so that you can see, and to be honest, I haven't got beyond that point. So here's my problem. I just don't like how it's looking. I do think it's too long. I'm 5'7", so I don't normally have to worry about the length of things, but obviously I can take that up, not the end of the world. But I'm just not convinced that as a dress, as a garment, that I'm actually going to wear it. I've got a horrible feeling that it'll be one of those that I take some photographs of and then never reach for it. I obviously now I've decided to go the sleeveless route. I'm not going to wear it in the winter. So I could say to myself, well, come what may, I'm going to have to unpick this binding. I still have the sleeves here. So I could say, okay, we'll put the sleeves on and make it for winter. But I'm not 100% sure that this fabric and this colour is, as an entire dress, is something that I'm going to reach for. I think if it was a top, then I probably would, but I can't see me wearing it with boots or tights. I don't know. I'm not convinced about the side where it drapes over. I feel like it's, because of the nature of the fabric I've chosen, I feel it's too structured, not massively flattering. I think it's okay, but I just don't know that I'm going to really wear it. I could, of course, just say, all right, unpick the binding, redo it, sew it up, put it away and take it out next summer. And maybe I will get it out of the cupboard next summer and think, oh my goodness, why haven't I been wearing this? That is an option. Or do I just say it doesn't stay as it is, it goes, it becomes something else, in which case, what else can I do with it? Obviously, I could just make a top out of it, you know, sleeveless round neck top. Seems a bit of a waste of all this fabric. So I don't know. I need to have a think about it, but I would also really appreciate your views. I am definitely veering more towards the turn it into something else and forget it than into the keep it. Can't see this ever really being a winter dress, so I'm not sure about putting the sleeves on. Please let me know what you think. I would really appreciate it. Certainly one thing that I'm a bit stumped by at this point is what I could do with all this fabric if I decide you know, to take it apart and do something else. Slightly not helped by the fact that the print on it is directional. But then, I don't know, maybe you could do something with that and make a feature of it. Help. I think that's what I'm trying to say. Help. So that is me done for this week. I will be back soon. I hope it has been absolutely chucking it down with rain since I started filming, so I hope that's not been too distracting. I will see you soon. Please let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.